be cutting the full circular skirt. The technique is quite different from when you cut the semicircular skirt. The first technique I'll be showing you is cutting with your fabric folded selvage to selvage. For this particular skirt, I'm cutting a mini skirt, a mini full circular skirt. So for this demonstration, I'm using 1/4 yards of fabric. So fold your fabric wrong side out with the selvage mitten this time around and pin. So after folding together, look for the midpoint of the fabric fold by folding again into half. Use my tailor's chalk to mark that midpoint. Open it back so I now have my center to start. For this particular technique, the calculation, you have to calculate again the waist measurement. Instead of dividing by 4, you are going to divide by 6. So the waist measurement, and that is the only part you are going to divide by 6. So the waist measurement, which was 28, I will divide it by 6. And when we divide 28 by 6, we have 4.6. Approximate it, it becomes 5. So we are using 5 to measure from the waist to create the waistline, the new waistline. And mind you, the waistline we also include the zip allowance. Connect the waistline, connect up, so now you have your waistline. And you can recheck it to see if it aligns with your measurement. So you can see 28 stops here, so this is enough room for sewing allowance for the zipper and the seam allowance. Next, we are going to check the skirt length. When cutting full circular skirt, the quantity of fabric and the depth of that fabric determines how the length will be. For this particular skirt, it's a mini skirt. So to check the length before you commence, start from the center here, the new waistline, measure it to the end of the selvage. So whatever you have here, I have 17, is going to determine the actual skirt length. So I'm using 17 as my actual skirt length. So go clockwise again. So take note of this technique. Next, connect the hem. Connect the hem, because from this place the waistline to the selvage is 17. There won't be need to add seam allowance at the end. But what we'll do next is to add seam allowance at the waistline. So instead of taking it outward, let it inward. Let's measure the seam allowance. So we are ready to cut. Cut it. I'm just going to make a cut on one end. So this part is going to be the seam allowance. We are going to use one stone to kill two birds. So there is another design called the handkerchief skirt. The handkerchief skirt is actually the same as the full circular. The only difference is that in full circular you cut off this edge. In handkerchief skirt you don't cut it off. So let's see the result. When it's like this, it's an handkerchief skirt. But if we cut off the edge, it becomes a full circular skirt. So we can now cut off the edge. So what I just showed you previously is an handkerchief skirt. But if I cut off the hem, it becomes a full circular skirt. So this is your full circular skirt. You can see the folds. It's fuller than when it is a semicircular. You can see it's fuller. So you can use this as a bell sleeve, as a bell bottom trouser, a lot of things. It could be a dress, a nice blouse, put your spaghetti strap, and it's a blouse. So like I emphasize, is the technique. A beautiful made skirt using this technique. You can see a lovely design. You can see how full and like a ball dress. So imagine when it's longer. The first time, remember when we're cutting the mini version of it, we just folded selvage to selvage. But this time you need more fabric. You need as much as 5 yards. So if you are making a wedding dress and you want the full circular skirt to be full, you see how weddings, they look regal and beautiful. You need more fabric. So for this particular demonstration, we are going to be using 5 yards to cut the skirt. Mind you, the length of the skirt is determined by the selvage here, selvage end. So here I have the 5 yards folded into 2, and I will fold it into 2 again because I want to maximize the use of my space. You can see selvage here. You can also see selvage at the bottom. But mind you, you folded into 2, so you have 4. You have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Measure out the waistline, which is 5 inch. Go clockwise again. 5 that you can use. And I always tell my students that there's always different ways to making things. So we pin. So now that I've measured, this is going to be for the waistline. The next I'm going to measure now is the skirt length. The skirt length will be determined by the number of fabric I have here. So when I measure from here to here, whatever I get here is what's going to be the measurement for the skirt length. So here you have 39. I measure and I go clockwise again. I'm working from this end. So this time around, I'm going to use my yardstick so that I won't stretch out too much, which is exactly 39 inch. So that one is still further. Always keep your hands flat. Before I cut, I'll check if the waistline is the same. At least I still have some allowance even after. So my waist is 7 inch. Let me check with my flexible curve. So I have allowance here. This will now determine the seam allowance I will add, the direction of my seam allowance. So this time around, instead of taking my seam allowance outward, I'm going to take it inward so as to create more allowance for my skirt. What I have there is too small. So ½ inch in, if what you are doing is the right thing. I take my flexible curve again and I check my new waistline. So 7 inch, see where it stops. Okay, my 7 inch stops here. So this part is enough for my either my waist, my zipper, because my zipper will be on the side, and for sewing allowance, so I can cut. So now I cut, and our skirt, you can still shaping the side to get an A shape, so I do not just draw straight. Excess. Put your notch, remember always put notch, because once you open it up you get mixed up. So move your, so you see this is the finished work. You can see how full the fold is, and whoever will wear it, floor length. So this could serve by the time you layer it with thick hard net lining and so on, it becomes a nice beautiful ball gown already sewn. You can see how beautiful and full. Like I told you at the introduction, the fabric you use determines the beauty of whatever you make. So you can see the result. Use a full circular skirt. You can see how full it is, how beautiful and pretty. The same thing, you can see how full and beautiful, but this is handkerchief version of it, where you don't trim the edges.